Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Crowdfund Sport webinar. I'm Anna from Crowdfunder, and for obvious reasons, we can't hold our workshops on location at the moment. So we're bringing them from our homes into your homes. Hopefully by the end of today's workshop, you'll leave knowing more about crowdfunding, the Active Together Fund, and how to prepare your sports organisation to crowdfund. At the end, you'll be sent a link to the Learn platform, which will show you how to crowdfund, giving you the tools to raise the money to make your idea happen. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. We've allowed 30 minutes for the session, but it might take a bit more or less than that, depending on the questions from you guys at the end. If you do have a question, please do type it into the chat box to the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll try and make sure that we get as many of them as we can covered during today's live session. So as I mentioned, we're all working from home, and as that, the door actually opened. So please bear with us. Anything can happen. Our internet might drop out. You might hear a very lively dog in the background, but just bear with us. So finally, in any case, if any of you are wondering, can we see you? We can't, don't worry, you can sit there having a cup of tea. We can't see you, but obviously you can see us. So today we are going to hear from our dedicated sports coach, crowdfunding sport coach, Chloe. And we're also going to hear from someone who's crowdfunded before, and we'll find out exactly what worked and what didn't work in making their crowdfunding campaign a success. So without further ado, is Chloe available?
Hello.
Hi, Chloe. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So for those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about crowdfunding?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get my presentation up. So crowdfunding is a great way to raise money and awareness for your organisation through engaging with the community. You'll set up a page on our online platform that will look something like this one here. You'll then promote that campaign to your community or your crowd, and those that want to support you, your organisation, or perhaps fancy one of your awards will make a pledge to help you reach your goal. Now, don't worry if you're not too tech savvy. Our team of engineers have done a great job to make the platform really user-friendly, and we've got loads of resources to help you along the way too. When setting up your page, it's really important to think about the wider community. Don't fall into the trap of just creating a page for your club members. These people are the most likely to pledge on your campaign already, so you want to make it tempting for those outside your immediate network. Use headlines to divide your text into sections about who you are as an organisation, your impact in the wider community. Maybe you hold community events, maybe your facilities are used for other organisations, or maybe your club has raised some money for charity, perhaps. This one's pretty obvious, but tell us why you're crowdfunding. So for the majority of you here, that will be the effect that COVID-19 has had on you as an organisation. And be transparent about how you plan to spend the money that you raise. As a supporter, you're much more likely to pledge on a campaign if you can see the direct impact of your donation. Make sure that you make your page really engaging by using images and videos. It's the best way to bring your page to life and really reflect the personality of your club. And finally, add some rewards. You can get really inventive with rewards. This is something that you can give back to supporters in return to a pledge, in addition to your standard donation that you'd perhaps associate with traditional fundraising. You can get as inventive as you like with these and have some fun. Speak to local businesses and speak to club members to see what can be donated to be used as a reward. In my experience, the most effective rewards are either unique or they're a bargain. So if you're offering bargains, make sure you put the RRP on the reward as well, so that the supporter can see that bargain that they're getting. And we've seen absolutely everything: half-price fish and chips. You've got a discounted pottery painting class there. 2 hours of conversational Greek lessons. You can get inventive and have fun. Now, we have a function on Crowdfunder called the multiplier. This allows people to fundraise on behalf of your project, and it works really well for sports. Perhaps you've got different squads or different teams within your club who might want to compete against each other to see who can raise the most. Or maybe you've got some individuals that want to do something special to help you reach your goal, like run a marathon or do 1,000 cartwheels, whatever it might be. It's a great way of getting more people involved with your crowdfunder, and potentially adding a bit of a competitive element too. So this is an example of a project that are crowdfunding with us at the moment, Bishop's Cleeve Community Sports Hub. Their main page is that big one that you can see there, and then they've got 14 fundraisers, all of which are doing something to raise a bit of extra money for that project. So everything that they raise will go towards that main project target. Now, as I'm sure many of you are aware of, we have joined forces with Sport England, and we have a fund aimed to help sports clubs overcome the effects of COVID-19. Sport England have released a whopping £2.5 million to go to sports clubs around England. Each club can receive up to a maximum of 50% of their targets, up to a total maximum of £10,000 per project. To be eligible for extra funding, you must be an English-based organisation that's not for profit and brings sport or physical activity to the community. This is how the fund works. So you'll set up your page and apply for extra funding through the extra funding tab that you'll see on your dashboard when you're creating your page. If approved, the pledge will be made onto your campaign and counts towards your project target. And this will happen once you've met 25% of your target and the required supporter numbers. You can see in that table at the bottom, that's how many supporter numbers you need in order to activate the pledge, depending on what your target is. So if I'm raising £10,000 for my gymnastics club, I need to have at least 50 unique backers in order to activate that pledge. Then once the pledge is on, I still need to make sure that I hit 100% of my target in order to secure the extra funding. If I do meet my target, or when I do meet my target, should I say, I can then continue fundraising until my campaign is due to end by adding a stretch target. That stops my campaign looking finished or complete and gives my crowd a reason to continue supporting me. Now, you guys are all at an advantage here because sport crowdfunds really well. And that makes sense to me. Crowdfunding is all about the community getting together and cheering for a common goal. And I'm sure you'll agree a lot can be said the same about sports. This page is purely an example of some of the fab campaigns that we've had crowdfund with us and receive extra funding. I really do recommend you take a look at the Active Together page because you'll see loads of great examples and a huge variety of sport. And you can get inspired by those pages on there. That's all from me for the time being. Anna, if you're there, I'm going to hand back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Chloe. That was fantastic. Really nice to hear all of that and about the extra funding on offer, which is amazing. So next up, we are going to hear from Annika, who raised an impressive £6,281 for Star Diving Club Guildford. She had 104 supporters on her campaign, so she really had an amazing campaign. So, Annika, are you there?
Hello.
Hi there, Annika. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Now I'm going to run through a few questions, but if anyone wants to ask Annika any questions, just please put them into the chat box and then we'll get to them at the very end. So firstly, your project raised over £6,000, which is incredible. Can you tell us a little bit more about the project?
Well, we just needed to start fundraising because, like many sports clubs, our financials were just really hit with COVID. The funds were just dwindling, and we're like, okay, what are we going to do? We've lost 25% of our members, and we can't fundraise in our usual way. And we need to just mount the costs that, just kind of came towards us. So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? And we've seen a few other clubs fundraise via the crowdfunding webpage, which sort of put the seeds in our heads to get ahead and sort of see what we could do. And that's kind of how we got started and looked into it and what could we do and how much could we achieve and where did we want to go.
Perfect. So I guess, did you look at other options? Like, why did you decide to crowdfund specifically?
I think just the ease of it. I mean, one of the main reasons really, like you guys said earlier, was that Active Together extra funding we could apply for. Because of the area we're in, we couldn't really apply for direct grant via the Sports England page. So the crowdfunding way was the way forward for us, really. Because we thought, well, we need to kind of do something that we can't really just go and ask our members to, just give us some money and we don't really do anything for it. And just seeing that other clubs were able to do it as well. But also really, I mean, we quite like the idea of having a little challenge to go with it. So we could include our members in the fundraising a little bit. When we talked about it initially, some people in the committee were saying, what about fundraising? What can the kids do to kind of fundraise for you? A little bit like at schools, the children do the fundraising for you amongst their family members, etc. So the crowdfunding page really kind of gave us all of this. So we used that multiplier tool that Chloe talked about earlier, which was just fantastic.
Yeah, it's obviously a really good way to maximize the amount that you fundraise, give that responsibility to other people to help you hit your target or hit your stretch target. So I think that multiplier function is really good for sports clubs. We spoke about before this webinar that crowdfunding is obviously there's a lot of work that goes into it. What did you find the sort of most difficult part of crowdfunding?
Well, it was kind of getting started and getting a team together who would actually kind of run with the whole thing, because it's not that you set the page up and it kind of runs by itself. So I think we found that quite hard to find some volunteers to do that and to have the time, and just to kind of know how much is realistically, what can we realistically do, and how much can we get to. So we just found that really hard to kind of keep that up and keep the enthusiasm up as well over the time. But really, I must say that the crowdfunding side was really easy to use. So there was a lot of help on hand as well. So it was quite straightforward really for us to kind of go through it. So setting up, you initially kind of go, oh gosh, we need to do a website for it, we need to do a video, we need to do all of these things, and it's a bit daunting at the beginning, but it was quite straightforward and easy to do.
And like we said earlier, there are so many, sports clubs that have crowdfunded. There's actually just so many examples. So when you are setting up your crowdfunder, it's quite nice to go and pick out 5 or 10 that you quite like and use that as inspiration, which is works well when you're crowdfunding for a sports club. And then going from the most difficult to what worked the best for you.
Well, what worked best is that I actually attended one of those webinars beforehand, which was really handy because the lady who spoke then said, really be sure you have a good plan and, you hold on another week maybe before you go live so you know exactly what you're doing. So it worked well that we managed to get a real good project plan together. So we knew what we were setting out to do. And then what we did was we had quite a lot of different rewards on, which was great. I think that it came up in the webinar, and Sports England kind of sort of said to us, appeal to the wider audience. And we managed to get quite a few rewards which weren't normally related to just the Star Diving Club. But, we had lots of different variety in there, which made it just easier for us to attract other people. And we worked a lot with social media. So we had like sort of that strategy a little bit in the background to kind of just say, what posts are we going to put out on Facebook and Twitter. We didn't really do Twitter, actually. We did Instagram the most, just to kind of knowing, who will read those posts and what will make it kind of stand out a little bit. We also had an article in the local paper about it, which in a way works for us as well as a little bit of a PR stunt as well going forward. So that worked really well. And then just really that multiplier tool was great, because I think we raised quite a lot of money just via those fundraisers. I think we had something like 5 fundraisers who did nearly about £1,000. So that's, it's quite a big chunk, whatever, 15% or something in that area anyway. That, where we would kind of reach people that wouldn't normally, give any money to our club. And I think that was one of the highlights, really. We also did a couple of extra sessions, like on weekends. So we had one of the ladies is a yoga teacher who gave us one of the rewards, but she also then offered a free yoga session for all of our squads and recreational members. And then our head coach did a conditioning session for all our rec divers. So, like as in sort of train like a squad member. They were all for free, but we kind of appealed to people, did you like this session? Would you mind pledging £1 or £2? And quite a few people kind of afterwards, they took part and they would then pledge the money towards the crowdfunder, which that worked really well as well.
Amazing. So I think that sums sort of up one of a quote that someone who crowdfunded successfully said to me sort of a few months ago, that there's not one magic ingredient to make it successful. It's lots of different parts that come together. And I think that sort of shows you, I think, like, as you said, preparation is absolutely key. So it's good to have a good plan in place before you go live, and structure your sort of different types of marketing strategies over that course of the 4 or 5 weeks that you're going to crowdfund for. You mentioned some of the rewards just now, but you had a great range of rewards, including discounts on haircuts and a hamper. And a lot of these rewards were targeted at your wider audience. And lots of these sold out. What approach did you take to find the rewards?
Yeah, we initially asked just our members if there was anyone. You always know there's a few businesses around and who might be able to kind of give something, and then just asked, do you know anyone who might be able to give something as well? So just kind of go a little bit further, and then everyone sort of knew somebody who could kind of give something. Then we had a few members, like there was an author amongst our members who gave some of her books, but then who asked somebody else. So it was just like really a word of mouth, a team effort of people knowing people who could kind of give something. Because we did talk about, what would attract you to kind of give money, because you don't want to have a one-to-one diving session, but like a haircut after lockdown, how amazing would that be? Or a hamper or something. So or which Auntie Lizzie will want to get for herself or something like that. So that worked really well, just using our existing network and asking around in a couple of local places as well.
Brilliant. And always, as you said, like have it in mind who the audience that you're reaching out to for that funding, what do they want? and sort of asking them what kind of things they'd be interested in pledging on. You mentioned sort of working a bit of it as a team, but who helped you with the campaign, and how did you divide the workload up?
Yeah, it was about 3 of us who did sort of different things, and I think that's probably sort of what you need, 2 to 3 people, maybe 4, and we all have different backgrounds really. So we had one person who was mainly kind of trying to get all of the rewards in and speak to people. Then there was me. So I used to work in marketing back in the day, so I kind of took it upon myself, did a couple of drafts of the website and our communication, etc. So I did all of that, and then Kirsty, who's our head coach, she did all the video and pictures and all of these things. So we didn't kind of, not one person had to do too much really. I think I probably had the overall head on and could always kind of count on others to do different things. I mean, I couldn't have done a video, but somebody else was, and that was really good. And then we could kind of always talk about, where do we want to go, where do we need to adjust, and what's good. So I think there was a core team, and then we'd ask maybe a few other people for their opinion on it before going live.
Yeah, that's always a good idea to get some feedback before you go live. But as you said, you project managing in a way and having, dividing up your workload to suit your strengths, and because not everyone is an expert at absolutely everything. So it's good to divide up that those difficult bits so that it can all get done. And as it proved, it was very successful, which is very good. Well, thank you, Annika. We've now got some questions from the crowd. I'm going to ask if Chloe is available to come back.
I'm back.
Hi, Chloe. Welcome. I'm just going to drop to have a look at the questions that we've got. If you've got any more questions, keep popping them into the chat box, and we will try and get through as many as we can. I can see there's lots that have come through, so we'll try to get through as many as possible. So firstly, Chloe, this one's for you. So does the target include the Sport England pledge?
Yeah, absolutely. The pledge goes towards your target.
Perfect. And another one for the Sport England funding. How do you work the numbers out the numbers needed to qualify? So I think
I'm assuming that's referring to supporter numbers. It's all in the terms and conditions. You'll be able to see that in the eligibility criteria. I'm also going to follow up this webinar with a replay, so you'll see that table on there as well. And if you're really unsure, just pop an email over to me.
Brilliant. We've got lots of Sport England questions coming through. So is Sport England just for COVID related projects, Chloe?
This Active Together Fund is specifically designed to help clubs overcome COVID. So yes, but all the information applies for if you're crowdfunding for anything else. If you're crowdfunding for a sports organisation, you can use all the resources available to you as well.
Brilliant. Now, this one's a bit about sort of time frame, but so I thought I'd ask you, Annika, sort of how long did you run your campaign for?
We did it for 4 weeks in total. We were debating about that actually, because you're like, oh, let's go for 5 weeks, we'll get more money. But to be honest, 4 weeks was perfect because you get quite exhausted after a while. It's quite a long time, 4 weeks, and you need to keep it all up. So for us, that was the ideal time frame, really. More time doesn't always mean more money.
Good phrase, exactly. I would say that's what Chloe and I would definitely say, wouldn't it? Chloe, do you want to sort of maybe talk about, there's a question from Emma here that's saying about, can you extend your project length? For example, like in terms of the Sport England funding, can you keep it if you do extend it, say past that 4 weeks?
So you're not able to extend your own project. We can do that for you, but we don't recommend it because you should have had a plan of action through your whole campaign. And that final point, that closing day, is going to be quite exciting, and you kind of build up to that last day. So if you then extend, it loses momentum, and it can lose that element of urgency as well. So it's not recommended. If for some reason you're in desperate need to extend for a couple of days, it is possible, but try not to.
Good answer. So more about extra funding. How long does it usually take to hear back from Sport England? For example, if you're over that 25% of your target?
The team there are absolutely fab, and they respond really quickly to questions. I'm not going to put a time on it exactly, but usually it's pretty quick after you've applied.
Perfect. That's good. And Laura is asking about different projects. Can you run more than one project and get additional funding for the other one if the projects are different with different aims?
If they're two different clubs, yes. It's hard work. I wouldn't recommend it. And if it's for the same club, then this extra funding is only available for COVID response projects. So you couldn't have two different ones doing different things, because only one of them would be eligible. I also don't recommend running two projects at the same time. As Annika says, it's hard work. So doing it twice at the same time is crazy. But also you're going to be speaking, you've got one crowd, and if you're promoting two campaigns, it's unlikely these people are going to pledge the same amount on both campaigns. So either you'll get half on both of them, or one will do a lot better than the other, or maybe you'll lose concentration and not do too well on both. So one at a time.
Yeah, definitely. And we're coming to the end of the questions. Maybe we'll take sort of two more questions. But Andrea is asking about the target. If the target is £20,000, if we qualify for extra funding, does this mean we have to raise £10,000 with 100 supporters?
So it depends on how much Sport England are supporting with you with. So it can be up to 50%. So if they agree to pledge 50% and that full £10,000 on your project, then yes, you need to raise at least £10,000 from at least 100 unique supporters.
Brilliant. And finally, I want to ask Annika, what advice would you give for someone who might be thinking about crowdfunding? What's your
I think I said it earlier, it's just really good to have a plan of action. Maybe if you're kind of trying to hit the button to crowdfund now, maybe just, give it another couple of days, be sure you know what you're doing. There's actually lots of advice out there, Chloe has reached out a few times throughout the campaign and offered some help. Sports England, actually, when we applied for the grant, they gave quite a few hints and tips, which was great as well. And just take all of that. Then just, do your homework really well, and know that once you hit kind of grow crowdfund, all right, we know exactly what we're doing, and expect it to be quite a lot of work. I think I was sometimes a bit like, oh my gosh, this is actually a lot more work, and I was quite happy we finished yesterday. I made a little dance. Just don't give up halfway through, because like all of these fundraisers, if you might have done one yourself, the beginning is always great. The first day you've got adrenaline and everyone sort of starts to donate money. And then in the middle, there's a bit of a dry patch and you lose the hope when you go, oh gosh, it's not going to happen. And it all picks up at the end. This sense of urgency really is good. And just make sure. So we actually sometimes didn't put the date on our emails as to when the crowdfunder ended. And people seem to think it will go on forever and they can just, and if you don't, you read your emails, and if you don't donate straight away, you can't forget about it. So in the end, we said, we will finish on the 15th. You must donate now. So yeah, that was something we kind of learned, because once we did that, people started donating again.
So it proves that urgency really does work. And I think, yeah, what you said, Annika, about using all of those resources, Chloe's sending lots of different things to help everyone crowdfund. And obviously Chloe's on hand as a coach to help projects succeed. So use that support, definitely. So thank you very much. I think that's all the questions that we have time for today. And it's really fantastic to hear from someone who's sort of been there, done it, finished yesterday successfully. I'm sure you've inspired lots of people. So thank you very much, Annika.
Thank you, no worries.
And Chloe, please, can you tell us the next steps then?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Annika. That was brilliant. Right, let me get my slide up. Okay, hopefully everybody has a better understanding of what crowdfunding is and how it can help you as an organisation. So the next step is time for you to become the expert. As Annika says, do your homework. And this is the first part. We've got an online learning platform that is specifically designed to help crowdfund for sport. So jump on here and go through the courses. It's really important to make sure your page is complete before applying for extra funding, and this is the best way to learn how.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chloe. And also to Annika again. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I really hope you found it useful. As Chloe says, please do follow the link to the Learn platform to take the next step in your crowdfunding journey. And best of luck with your campaigns. Bye-bye.